C2 H2 artists. You are watching We All Be TV. News Free Dixie for the 21st century. Can you dig it?
This is Judge Joe Brown, and you're watching We All Be News TV, the
News Free Dixie.
News Free Dixie for the 21st century.
There's another community on that side that connects.
Yes, sir.
Connects the two communities.
Mm-hmm.
Indoor is kind of like the Beale Street.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Sonny Boy Williamson.
Entertainment
Hmm.
party place.
This one put it on hold. Wow.
Wow, right.
So you take people across here all the time, or?
Pretty much.
Hmm.
They take pictures and reminisce.
Well, which side they drop them out? This side right here? Man, if this river could talk, man. No trees or something. Or bridge.
Now,
Mm-hmm.
see, I did write a poem.
Mm-hmm.
Right, I should be ready for it.
Okay.
Right?
I'm ready.
During this time last year, Ron, the Lord blessed me to write a poem about how I feel about the short, tragic life of Emmett Till. The title of the poem is Thank You, Emmett. In life, things happen that make us feel good and glad. But things also happen that cause us to be fearful, sad, and mad. As time goes by, we wonder why some things make us laugh and others make us cry. Hatred, racism, violence, and crime, almost enough to blow my mind. When it comes to peace and unity in our community, let the record show. We have come a long way, but we still have a long way to go. As we hurry, scurry, and worry, we've forgotten or just don't know the debt we owe to those who've paved the way for us to be who and where we are today. Many suffered and made the ultimate sacrifice for us to live the abundant life. Although some have received awards and accolades for the contributions they made, there's one who was the foundation upon which the civil rights movement was laid. He was a boy with love in his heart, pep in his steps, a smile on his face and sparks in his eyes. A boy who, like Jesus, was born to die, for us to reach our goals and our dreams could be fulfilled. His name, Emmett Louis Till. I hope to meet him in heaven someday. And if I do, here's what I'll say. Thank you, Emmett, for going to the grave so we could overcome and live in the land of the free and the home of the brave. When you left, things were fine, but you didn't know how different things were south of the Mason-Dixon line. You came as one in a million people of color, trapped in the prison of prejudice, yet loved and cared for each other. You went back as the one who will be remembered as the victim in the tragedy that showed the world the insanity of humanity. So young, carefree, so naive. Emmett, you didn't deserve the treatment you received. I pray for those that vicious, that mean, who would do such a thing. And I appreciate you for taking one for the team. When I think about why and how you died, tears still well up in my eyes. Since then, you've been in the bosom of God, on my mind and in my heart. I just want you to know, you'll always be my hero. Thank you, Emmett, for going to the grave so we could overcome and live in the land of the free and the home of the brave. Emmett, you're the seed that produced liberty and justice for all. You're the message that moves the masses to answer the call and stand tall. Rosa Parks refused to move. Fannie Lou Hamer got sick and tired. Soon came Freedom Rides, and Martin Luther King had his dream. Things are not perfect and will never be, but because of what happened to you, we know apart is not smart. Together is always better. So full of life, joy, and energy. Emmett, I wish you could have lived to see the children you would have fathered grow up unshackled by injustice and inequality. To appreciate sunshine, that must be rain. Life is the same. No pain, no gain. Emmett, your death was not in vain. That act of shame intended to fan the flames of fear, but it failed. Because though they kill your body, your spirit, your memory, and your legacy are alive and well. Thank you, Emmett, for going to the grave so we could overcome and live in the land of the free and the home of the brave. The wound has healed, but there remains a scar to remind us of where we were and now where we are. So when I lay me down to sleep and pray the Lord my soul to keep, I thank him again for the benefits your atrocity helped make possible for all God's children to reap. Thank you, Emmett, for going to the grave so we could overcome and live in the land of the free and the home of the brave. Sometime soon, we don't know when, we'll all be back together again. And in that great celebration, we're going to join the angels and saints from every nation and give you, Emmett Till, a standing ovation.
That was great. Thank you. And welcome everybody to another wonderful, entertaining, educating edition of We All Be Radio, News Radio. News Free Dixie for the 21st century. This is Brother Ron coming from you from We All Be, because we all be in it to win it. Thank you all for tuning in, to tune out, to tune in, to get in where you fit in with We All Be. So I thank y'all. That's actually was Brother Archie Quinn. He's a righteous ancestor now. I had a chance to meet him back in March of 2012. Went down to the Emmett Till Museum down in Glendora, Mississippi, which was created by Johnny B. Thomas, who's been the mayor of Glendora since the 80s. And his father, from my understanding, was Henry Lee Loggins, who was a witness and possible suspect in the kidnapping, the murder of 14-year-old Emmett Lewis Till. I actually interviewed Brother Johnny B. Thomas near that bridge, the Black Bayou Bridge. There's a lot of things about the Emmett Till case is interesting. A lot of things people know but don't know. It's like what's interesting about the case is that it seemed like people knew more about what happened to Emmett Till 60-something years ago instead of right now in 2022. They had no social media back then, but people knew more. I think what it was that people, it's more of a community. Like people had to go out there and engage people, because right now a lot of us are not good at interaction with each other. A lot of us are socially awkward, and that's really by design. That's really by design. Could the American Revolutionary War happen now? People think it could. I don't think it can. You got to think about how people communicated back then. Things were slow, but at the same time, people were forced to connect with people, get outside their comfort zones. A lot of us are too comfortable in our own misery, but I don't want to get too off the beaten path on this. But I did that back in March of 2012. My tour guide was the late great sister, righteous ancestor Margaret Block from Cleveland, Mississippi. She is the sister of the late great Sam Block, who was the field secretary for the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee in that area of Mississippi. So she comes from a family of freedom fighters, and she was a true rider, a poetress like no other. I still miss Sister Margaret Block. She used to hold me down, connect me with different people in the movement, did a lot of things. Very supportive of what I was doing at We All Be when I was podcasting out on Blog Talk Radio. Sometimes she would co-host with me and tell me about stories that was happening currently in the Delta at the time. But I wanted to make sure I did this show on the birthday, would have been the 81st birthday of Emmett Lewis Till, to give honor to that man, or that young man, or that really a child. He was a boy. He really wasn't a man, but it is a blueprint. Black boys can never be kids, right? You think about Mike Brown, Trayvon Martin, Tamir Rice. The list goes on and on. We are never allowed to be treated as children when we are children, we always seen as the boogeyman, what ills white America. But it's pretty fascinating. But yeah, the Black Bayou, for example, that was the Black Bayou Bridge. Allegedly, Roy Bryant and his brother J.W. Mount. I hate saying the Health brothers thing. They brothers, right? They got the same mama, so they brothers. And a Health brother don't make sense. I mean, they're not half a person. They're a whole human being, so they brothers, right? So J.W. Malcolm and his brother Roy Bryant allegedly tied a 70-pound cotton gin fan around Emmett's neck and threw him into the Black Bayou, which leads into the Tallahatchie River from the Black Bayou Bridge. And that's what we did that little poetry set with the late, great Archie Quinn on the Black Bayou Bridge, where allegedly the brothers Milam and Bryant threw Emmett Till's body into that water, which leads into the Tallahatchie. So that's how they told me anyway, but who's I don't know anything. But I want to talk about this case with the Emmett Lewis Till, and also talk about his father, Lewis Till. And I think as we seek to trying to bring Carolyn Bryant Dunham, whatever her name is, to justice, we still need to seek to clear the name of Emmett's father, Lewis Till, who was executed by the U.S. military under very, very, very questionable circumstances. Because we got to understand is that Emmett Till was guilty because he was black and he was a male. He was a black male. That was his real sin. Not that he did anything to Carolyn Bryant Dunham, but for him to exist as a young black male, he was a threat. That was his biggest sin, being young black male. His biggest sin. So his killers walked free off of the murder trial. They were trying to get him on kidnapping charges because they did admit to taking Emmett Till from his great uncle Mose Wright's home in the early morning hours of August 28th, 1955. But what happened was, for 10 years, Mammy been trying to find out what happened to her first husband, Lewis Till, overseas. She could never get any word from the U.S. military, from the State Department, or whatever. But a very powerful senator, a Dixiecrat named Senator James Eastland, leaked some military information, intel, to the press and to other people about the fate, the true nature of what happened to Lewis Till. Lewis Till allegedly was accused, along with his co-defendant, brother Fred McMurray, of raping and killing white women in Italy. He was stationed in Italy. The reason why he was overseas, he enlisted in the army because he was married to Mammy Till, but they had some domestic violence issues. He was a boxer. Very charismatic brother, from all accounts, very handsome, charismatic brother. Let's put up a picture of this brother in his uniform. See, white men fear black men in uniform, because even going back to World War I, they used to start rumors about black men having monkey tails, right? And that really intrigued the white women over there. Charles Hamilton Houston, who was the dean of the Howard University Law School, who was Thurgood Marshall's Jegna, was almost lynched overseas during World War I. He was an officer in the U.S. military. Him and his buddies were almost lynched by American doughboys. These are white soldiers from America, because the white women were more interested in the black brothers in the uniforms than they were in the white men. They knew where the party was at. Where the white women at? Where the black boys at? Where the doughboys, chocolate doughboys at? So he almost got lynched in his uniform, and he was a military officer. But this is not unusual. You have black folks lynched in full military uniform, even in the homeland. This was going on even during World War II down in Mississippi, where they was finding black men in uniform in the waterways, in full uniform, lynched. There are so many stories we don't know about. There are so many people that are still sitting at the bottom of Tallahatchie River and other waterways throughout this country. You got a phenomenon known as drown towns, right? Where a lot of these cases, you got large man-made lakes in places like Alabama and all over the place, really, Georgia, Even up New York, you'd be driving black towns that were taken out of here, wipe out the map by white terrorism, state-sponsored white terrorism. So you got man-made lakes that sit over towns and cemeteries around this country. And I found out about this just several months ago. This is crazy. And we got to stop getting so emotional about everything and start pulling out these receipts and doing research. But I want to talk about Louis Till, the Emmett's father. Show a picture of this brother as I speak on him. Say his name, Louis Till. I think he's Emmett Louis Till Sr. I don't know. But he, but on the ring that Emmett had that his mom used to identify his body was his initials LT, his father's ring. He was wearing his father's ring when they pulled his body out the Tallahatchie River. So this is his father, Louis Till. Very handsome cat, athletic, very charming guy. I think he was an orphan. He grew up as an orphan. He was from Missouri, the state of Missouri. I think New Madrid, Missouri. Some of y'all call it Missouri. Some of y'all call it Missouri. I call it Missouri. State of Missouri. I think Mammy was a little bit older, a year older than him, not that much, by a couple months, several months older than him. They were married, but Emmett father had I guess he was a ladies' man. He used to step out on Mammy a lot. She got tired of it. Used to get into fights, and he put his hands on her too many times, whatever. She threw some scalding hot water, probably some grits on him every now and then. She got a restraining order against Louis, and he kept on violating his restraining order. So the judge gave him two choices. You can either go to prison or you go into the military. And he decided to go into the military. He went to the army. He was stationed in Italy. Allegedly, what had happened was that him and his buddy, Fred McMurray, another black brother from the States, they were drinking, having a good time. Then all of a sudden, they was accused of killing and raping white women in Italy. So they court-martialed this brother and the other brother, Fred McMurray. They were not judged by a jury of their peers, all white guys, passing judgment. They brought in the so-called alleged victims or victim into the courtroom. When asked to identify who attacked her, she couldn't identify. She refused to say that it was Louis Till and Fred McMurray. So the victim refused to accuse or point out that it was Louis Till or his co-defendant that actually attacked her. But they didn't care. It was a kangaroo court. There was no evidence. All the evidence circumstantial. Nothing connected them. Then people said that they thought it was a white man, maybe an Italian, that was raping and killing these women. But it's a sin. Like they made a Mann Act to get Jack Johnson for dealing with white women in America. The Mann Act was made for Jack Johnson. Okay? For transporting white women across state lines. They made it illegal for Jack Johnson to take his white wives and girlfriends across state lines. So America always had an issue with sex between black and white as it pertains to black men and white women. Because even Ida B. Wells Barnett was ran out of Memphis because she told the truth that a lot of these so-called black and white, black brutes raping white women were actually consensual affairs. And then the white women will yell or scream rape when they were caught. So Ida B. Wells exposed all that back in the 19th century. But as I told you about in the military, they had a thing about black men in uniform. The white women just love men in uniform, but brother brings a certain type of swag and distinction when they in uniform. So there was a threat to white manhood, really, just by existing. And Louis Till, tall, dark, and handsome cat, very athletic dude, knew how, he was a ladies' man. So I don't think he had to rape any woman to get with a woman, but hell, they say, he's guilty because he's black. And he probably had consensual relations with some of these white women overseas. And they didn't go for that, in America, as they made the world safe for democracy. So him and the brother was hanged. I believe they hanged Louis Till March the 2nd, 1945. He's buried over in France in a section of military, whereas for people who were convicted of crimes and dishonorably discharged. But it's weird. I already know he didn't get a fair trial because I'm just telling you, there's a little bit of what I know about the case. Y'all can Google this stuff up and look it up. Very suspect, because most of the people that were executed in that way were black military guys. Like, I think where he's buried at, they got like 90-something people in the part of that cemetery overseas in France. Out of the 90-something people that's buried over there, I think 80-something of them are black men accused of various crimes, probably raping white women. And I doubt they had a fair trial. We talked about the 24th Regiment, the Houston race riot or massacre or race war of 1917. We had the 24th Regiment march on Houston in response to mistreatment by the Houston Police Department and all this other stuff. And these brothers were say it's the largest murder trial in U.S. history. You had 19 black men hung, and you had 41 sentenced to life in prison. And now, over 100-something years later, the U.S. military is looking into what happened with that case to probably either issue pardons or exonerate the 24th because they took an oath to protect the United States against enemies, both foreign and domestic. So Lewis Till, I doubt he got a fair trial, and then they killed him again. They killed him 3 times. They killed him physically. They killed his son, his only biological heir, as far as we know. They killed him. And then they killed him again as far as character assassination. And also they character assassinated his son. So these folks got killed over 4 times. So I would think as we are pushing on, people are pushing for Carolyn Bryant Dunham to be brought to justice, I believe we also should be pushing for the U.S. military and the powers to be to exonerate or pardon posthumously Lewis Till and his co-defendant, his comrade, Fred McMurray. I think that'd be the right thing to do. I believe one of his relatives visited him recently, his grave over in France, to pay their respects. But this is what they do. We can never be innocent. And when black folks are considered victims, we're never innocent. It's always our fault that they killed us. It's always our fault, especially when it comes to black males. It's always our fault that we get killed. So I was just thinking about Lewis Till. That's why I want to do the show. Yeah, somebody said Lake Marion. There's a couple of lakes actually were drowned towns where they built lakes over once thriving black towns. Not just black towns, but a lot of these were instances of black people being ran out and exterminated for their land. Like you got, you talking about the Great Migration, like Emmett Till people, Mammy, they all left Mississippi and places like that because they were forced out, because you had a lot of black people that owned land in Mississippi and it was forced off their land through white terrorism. They didn't want to sell their land, and we've been messed up ever since. And now you got black folks doing reverse migration coming back to the South. We should have never left the South. Think about all the black people that got ran out of Mississippi. Mississippi got 40% of their population is black. But think about if they didn't run out so many of our black people out of Mississippi. How would Mississippi look today? People talking about Atlanta. We have a whole, as far as Atlanta, I ain't talking about the Skittle stuff. I'm talking about in terms of having real black power. We would have had a couple of black governors by now in Mississippi. Would have had some more U.S. senators out of, outside of Reconstruction. We'd have had a couple of U.S. senators that were black. And I think now, I don't know if it's still true. I think Mississippi has more black elected officials than any state in the union. That was true several years ago. I don't know what it is now, but at the same time, where's the progress? Now you got U.S. Rep. Benny Thompson, very powerful politician who represents the Magnolia State in Congress. He's too worried about Trump, who's not in power, and about what happened on January 6th, which was not an insurrection, to care about the unsolved hangings of black men in white neighborhoods. Or you got black man hanging from a tree at his white baby mama's house. You know, maybe her stepdad, he hung himself with his stepdad, with her stepdad's belt or something like that. You got a couple of cases in Mississippi since 2000 of black men hanging from trees, black boys hanging from trees, black men, black boys hanging in their prison cells. That's unsolved, or they rule it quickly as suicide, which is ridiculous. But Benny Thompson, even if you go, let's go back to the 40s, where they still have not resolved what happened to those black GIs at Camp Van Dorn down in Mississippi back in the 40s. There's an urban legend or rural legend or whatever that back in the mid 40s at Camp Van Dorn down in Mississippi, that anywhere between 1,300 to 1,500 black GIs were massacred by the military police. It was known as the Camp Van Dorn massacre. And 20-something years ago, around early 2000, 2001, there was actually an outcry to investigate if this was true, because it took place near a town called Centerville that still exists. It's kind of slow, laid back town, but back then during World War II, it was booming, right? So you had the military base that was operational. So they had a booming economy. You had, the military folks coming to town, restaurants, all type of services. So they had a booming economy during wartime. But you had issues with the black GIs, had issues with local law enforcement in the town. I believe 1 or 2 brothers were killed by the local police down there, black GIs. And the thing about it is, it's not just a Mississippi thing. This is a U.S. government thing. He was U.S. military. So we just can't put this all on Mississippi. So this is, because these black GIs were not from the South. They were like from places like Philadelphia, out east, because they actually got into something out in Phoenix. This Phoenix massacre, or Phoenix riot or something. Let's look at all this stuff. A lot of race riots happened during the 40s when the country was at war. It was at war at home too. So they were transported to Camp Van Dorn. They were some of the troublemakers, So allegedly, this guy, I think his name is Carol Case. He wrote a book about the Camp Van Dorn massacre, but he wrote it as like historical fiction or whatever you call it. And he had a movie deal and everything, but he was told the story when he was working at a bank as an executive by the security guard back in the 80s. Old white man who was a security guard, used to be military police, told him about a massacre that he was involved in, that they killed over 1,000 black GIs down in Camp Van Dorn, stacked them up like wood in trains, and I believe they dumped them in a lake, in a man-made lake. Talking about them drown towns. Allegedly, they're resting at the bottom of a man-made lake down in Mississippi. And I recently talked to Carol Case for the last 2 years on the phone. Because, you had the U.S. military looking at this. You had the Congress looking into this. Benny Thompson was involved, trying to see what was going on. You had the NACP was involved. This is right before September 11th. See, when September 11th happened, they slowed down. Because it was like gaining so much momentum, trying to find out what happened. The reason why I believe it did happen is because you had a local news station in Jackson. They interviewed white people down there that was living down there. These civilians, some of them worked on the base, some of them were in town, but they talked about this at family gatherings for years, about how they killed all them black GIs, or how they saw these black men stack up like wood in these railroad cars going to where God knows where. And like in the military, once you sign your name on a dotted line, you are property of the U.S. government. You are property of Uncle Sam. They don't owe your family an explanation of what happened to you. They can say you was missing in action. They can say you was killed in action. They could have lynched you. They could have tell your family you fought on the front lines bravely. You died a hero's death, a warrior's death. They give you medals posthumously and cover up the truth. Think about what happened with that football player, Pat Tillman. They didn't tell his family the truth about how he died. Think about Private First Class Lavina Johnson, who got killed over in Iraq, and the U.S. military or the Army said it was a suicide, and they did a second autopsy, found out she was murdered in a contractor's tent in Iraq right before her 21st birthday. It's so many stories I could talk about, and it pertains to the military and questionable deaths when they call them suicides, but it was a lot of steam going in. September 11 happened, and everything just went dead. But the news station in Jackson interviewed these elderly white people, as well as some black folks who were stationed at Camp Van Dorn. At least one of them, he passed on. He's from California. He passed on. But these people were adamant that there were black men that were slaughtered at their military base, Camp Van Dorn. And I actually saved and archived some of the videos of the interviews that were done of these white people. They said it happened. These is everyday white folk. It happened. They killed a lot of black soldiers. But I went down to Camp Van Dorn on my birthday weekend last year, and it's really dead. You know, it's got black. It's a dead town. You got people that live there. You got young folks that live there, but it's like a dead town. But it was interesting going there. They got a military museum, the Camp Van Dorn Military Museum, and I want to do this as soon as possible. I want to do a special about Camp Van Dorn. I want to contact the military museum down there, some representative. Hopefully they'll do an interview with me. I want to talk to the newsmen and people who actually put their story together, the series. They had a limited series on this news station down in Jackson. I actually saved all the interviews they did, and also the ones that were extra interviews that were not included in their original story. I want to contact those guys because they're no longer in Jackson. They all over the place now. But it needs to be another look at Camp Van Dorn. And I believe Benny Thompson, of all people, should actually leverage that Emmett Till bill for what it should be used for. Not for a Skittles agenda, but to liberate and make and keep a record. Give us our receipts so we can know how, you know, when you owe us this, because look what you did to our people. Not only to Emmett Till, but look what you did to Lewis Till. About them brothers down there in Camp Van Dorn y'all killed, allegedly, and put them in a lake. How about Private First Class Lavina Johnson? There's so many atrocities that's been committed under the flag, under the auspices of good old Uncle Sam. So, yeah, but Lewis Till, I believe he should get a pardon, at least a posthumous pardon, because he was denied due process. Him and Fred McMurray, not just him, but also Fred McMurray, say their names. Him too, he too, they too. Okay. So, yeah, that's very important. And look up that case. Take a look. It's all online. But I also had a chance to read the memoir, the 99-page memoir. I only paid 99 cents for it. Carolyn Bryant done on more than a wolf whistle thing she wrote with her daughter-in-law. It was an interesting work of historical fiction. Whatever you want to call it, you know, a hack job, you know, but it was entertaining and interesting to read. And I want to make sure I share my thoughts about it. I would, you know, people act like this stuff is so available to find. I had a hard time finding it. You know, you look at the news articles, they quoting it, but they're not letting you see everything in the memoir. And they say, well, you know, it's available online in PDF, but nobody can tell you where it's at. And I'm good at finding stuff that's kind of hard to find online. You know what I'm saying? But it's hard to find. I had that, you know, so a source of mine gave me a copy, and I read it that day, that evening. Lock her up. I don't feel sorry for her. Give her the Bill Cosby, R. Kelly treatment. Lock her up. Lock her up. Lock her up. Lock her up. If she could survive 3 years of hell like Bill Cosby, then let her go. Let her go. But lock her up. She had her fun. This woman got married 3 times. She's 80-something years old. Got a whole bunch of grandkids. Probably got a lot of great grandkids. She had lived the life she wanted to live. Able to enjoy herself. We got to wonder what Emmett would have been doing at 81. We know what Carolyn doing. And 80-something years old, she hiding. But also she having help. The powers that be is helping to hide Carolyn Bryant Donald. Bring her in court. Give her the Bill Cosby treatment. That's what she deserves. Give her the Bill Cosby treatment because she got that boy killed for no good reason. And she was there because how would they know who to get if she didn't identify Emmett? And like his uncle said, his great uncle Mose Wright, he heard a lighter than man voice, identified Emmett. It was her, Carolyn Bryant Donald. It wasn't me. It was her. It wasn't me. It was her. Okay. So the book is interesting because first and foremost, she get a couple of important dates wrong. Like she said when she encountered Emmett Till several times in the book, it was August 23rd. It was a Wednesday. Day of the week was right. The date was wrong. Wednesday, August 23rd, 1955. She said it several times in the book. It happened August 24th, 1955, a Wednesday. I mean, as a matter of fact, let me check to make sure it was. Cause I gotta do. And she had a daughter-in-law help her write this book, and they wrote this back in the 2000s. It's dated 2008, the manuscript. And why she didn't catch that, I don't know. But she said she'll never forget that date. But she did forget the date. And then in the book, she got her first husband, Roy Bryant, one of the murderers of Emmett Till. I don't care. They confessed to killing Emmett Till. And look, the confession is suspect, but I do believe they told the truth about killing Emmett Till. See, when was August 24th? Yeah, it was a Wednesday. So what's crazy about this whole thing, like I said, people knew more about the case back then than we do now. We're in the age of information, but a lot of us don't know how to research or critical think. So she encountered Emmett Till in her store in Money, Mississippi, the Bryant grocery store, Wednesday, August 24th, 1955. Bryant and his brother J.W. Ballum and their entourage kidnapped Emmett Till early morning hours of Sunday, August 28th, 1955. Around 2:30 a.m., according to Mose Wright. 4 days passed. Y'all think about how crazy this is, right? I just can't lay blame on the white folks for killing Emmett Till. Black folks, we got to hold this L too. 4 days elapsed before they got to Emmett. According to his cousins, Emmett told him not to tell his great uncle Mose. And Mose get a bad rap. I think he gets a bad rap. And people think he's a coward. I don't think he's a coward. He never had a chance. Imagine if they told Mose Wright, Emmett's great uncle, what allegedly happened at the store. All of them would have left that day. I believe all of them would have left for sweet home Chicago that day. Land of milk and honey, sweet home Chicago. They all would have left for sweet home Chicago that night or that day. Been no packing but them getting the hell out of Mississippi on a train from Memphis up to Chicago. Had they told his great uncle what happened, they didn't. But black folks, from my understanding, told Roy Bryant what happened. See, black folk, we are our worst enemies. He wasn't from there. And then even the so-called cousins, they all got different stories of what happened. And the so-called witnesses at the Bryant store. Everybody said, well, one lady, she said, Emmett didn't whistle. What happened was when he handed the lady the money for the candy, instead of him putting it on the counter, he put it directly in her hand, and that caused her to react. So he touched her hand by putting the money in her hand instead of on the counter. And somebody said he wasn't wolf whistling at her. He was whistling at the people playing checkers. Somebody made a move and in checkers, they were playing either checker or chess. Because they allow black folks to play on the porch, chess or checkers, whatever. So they're comfortable being around black people as well as taking our money. So they allow black folks to stay on the porch and drink Coke or pop, whatever you want to call it, and played games like checkers and cards and stuff like that. So I think one person said, well, Emmett was whistling at that. He wasn't whistling at I'm about to call Karen. She is a Karen, but Carolyn, right? So who knows? But whatever happened, and whatever allegedly happened or didn't happen, he shouldn't have to forfeit his life over something like that. So they had 4 days. So that's crazy. Think about that, 4 days. So I just can't say, see, blacks and whites helped kill Emmett Till. And really, it's true because I'm not trying to, throw a lot of blame on the cousins, but I'm just trying to understand Most Right and his wife begged those guys not to take Emmett. She offered them money. Most begged them. He said, look, this spankable, something like that. We'll spank him. I know he shouldn't have did that, Then I think J.W. Malcolm said, well, how old are you, preacher or whatever? Because he was a preacher, Most Right. He said, I'm 64. He said, well, you know what? You won't be 65. You better stay out my way. Something to that effect. J.W. Malcolm was, World War II veteran, highly decorated, so he was a vicious SOB. Very intimidating, tall dude with a bald head, very intimidating. So they tried, think about it. They was outnumbered and outgunned. If Most Right and his wife try to do more, even those kids try to do more, probably the whole family would have been massacred. The whole family probably would have been massacred. And nobody would have thought about it because Mississippi, think about it. They was going to bury Emmett in Mississippi. Imagine if the whole family was massacred. They all would have been buried in Mississippi. Nobody would have raised a stink. We would never knew what happened to Emmett Till because the whole family would have been wiped out. And this things have happened. See, that lynching racket from Tuskegee is not the whole truth. The documentation they have from the late 19th century all the way to the middle of the 20th century. Thousands of lynchings have happened in this country that we're not even aware of. There are massacres yet to be discovered. I'm talking about Camp Van Dorn, right? 1,500 black GIs massacred by U.S. government, allegedly, during World War II in Mississippi. If they can hide 1,000 bodies, what's Emmett Till? What's his family? So we got to be grateful in a way that nobody else was murdered because we never knew what happened to Emmett. Because they could have disappeared all those people. So it's easy for us to judge people from our point of view decades later. But I thought Most Right, I know it had an awful feeling because, you could have been protecting your great nephew. You could have been showing him a good time down in the summer. And money, it had a saying, money is a great place to raise a boy, right? So, Emmett supposed to be having a good time learning not only how to play, but also how to work hard, having a good work ethic. Picking that cotton, good city boy, picking that cotton, all that stuff, having time, swimming in lakes and rivers and stuff. But I can't imagine being Most Right with that guilt, that burden that's on him to the day he died, probably. But I give him this. For him to testify against white men in Mississippi back in the 50s, it took a lot of bravery. For him to point out who kidnapped and killed his great nephew took a lot of bravery. All white jury, white man's law, white man's world. He said, there they be. And Ernest Withers, the photographer y'all love to hate, FBI informant Ernest Withers, dean of civil rights photographers, he took the only shot of the trial while it was going on, not when it was doing recess. But he defied the judge's orders, Judge Curtis Swango, and he used his camera and took that shot of Most Right pointing his finger at the people who killed his nephew, kidnapped and killed his great nephew. That took a lot of courage for him to do. So I'm not gonna sit here and Monday night, Tuesday morning quarterback Most Right, because it's this thing going on that people be saying, well, I'm not my ancestors. Well, you don't know who the real there's a lot of our ancestors were badasses. You don't know about them. You keep on thinking that all our ancestors are cowards. They weren't cowards. I told you about the 24th. They threw down. They killed on white police officers that disrespected them. They killed a whole bunch of white people, and they turned themselves in, and they knew they were gonna die. There's a photograph of them in court. A lot of them brothers, man, got their legs crossed. They like, yeah, they're gonna kill us. But at least we got some of them. We took some of them with us. You understand? So we gotta be careful about how we look at certain things and where we get our source of information from and how we interpret our narrative. Because most right, he was true profiles and courage. I wish he could have did more to save his great nephew, but had he tried, they would have massacred their whole family. They didn't give a damn about no 14-year-old kid. They didn't care about no old man either. They didn't care about no woman. They didn't care about Emmett's mama. They didn't care about that. They made different. And the fact you had black dudes helping them kidnap, torture, and murder Emmett Till. See, we are worst enemies because they can't do it without our assistance. They couldn't neutralize Marcus Garvey without black people being FBI agents. They used black folks to neutralize Malcolm X. King had informants in his circle, black people. We are our own worst enemies. We the key to our liberation. Also, we the key to our oppression. So we got to figure this thing out. So getting back to the book, she got the dates wrong about when she encountered Emmett. It was a Wednesday, but it was August 24th, not 23rd. And she kept on repeating that. Like she said, I ain't gonna never forget the date, but you forgot the date. And why is it your daughter-in-law not correcting this? Y'all in the age of Google. I mean, you got access to internet when y'all writing the memoirs, right? Then she get the date wrong when her first husband, Roy Bryant, died. He died back in September 1st, 1994. She got him dying in 1996. Then got her son down the next year. He did die the next September, but that was 95. It wasn't 97. That's Roy Sr., her firstborn. Then about his murderous father, his coward of a father. You know, Roy Bryant and J.W. Mountain got ran out of Mississippi by blacks and whites. You know, black folks stopped going to the Bryant store. And then black folks refused to work for J.W. Malcolm. You know, he'll get loans and get the land, but black folks refused to work for him. He had 5 families move off his property after they killed Emmett Till. He hired white people to work his land, but white folks they wanted more money. They was not gonna work for them slave wages like the black sharecroppers did. So he went out of business, went to Texas, came back, I believe, died of spinal cancer in 1980. That's J.W. Malcolm. And Roy Bryant, his brother, died 14 years later. And let me see something. They didn't get away with it, folks. We keep on thinking they got away with it. Karma has a way of working things out. They suffer a lot of hardships. You know, even Roy Bryant Sr., he was basically blind. He got a job as a welder down in Texas, Louisiana. But due to the hazards of his profession, he was basically legally blind. I mean, he could barely see. So he got the welding business, came back to the Delta, struggling. Let's look about the stuff. They went to a lot of hardships, both of those guys. They didn't get off easy because God don't like ugly. You understand? So they got punished by life. Because even towards the end, Roy Bryant saying that he basically said, why can't he just stay dead? Like Emmett Till hunting him for the rest of his life. Like even his he in the book, Carolyn Bryant talk about their only daughter, was born deaf. They didn't know she was deaf because she took a while to start speaking. So she didn't know what was wrong with her daughter. And Roy Bryant was in denial about everything. Now, denial is not just a river in Egypt or in Africa, right? He was in denial, but she ended up taking her to a doctor, to a specialist in Houston, and they found out she was deaf, that she couldn't hear nothing. So she got hearing aids. They got her hearing aids, put her in a deaf school at the beginning of her educational journey. So, I mean, I guess she was able to, hear again and have a family or whatever. But I'm saying they suffer some hardships. So it wasn't they ain't got off scot free. The universe so God had other plans for him, but that book was interesting because, like Carolyn Bryant, now she lost 2 of her sons. She got 2 kids, as far as I know, still living, but her first child, Roy Sr., died back in 95. And then her other son, another son named Frankie, I believe, died in 2010, just 2 years after they wrote the memoir, her manuscript. And now she's in her late 80s. And now it's time for her to go to jail, to prison. But do it how y'all did Bill Cosby, though. Kangaroo court style. Do it the R. Kelly way. Get in a RICO. Do it that way. But we got people that have no backbone. And I dealt with some of these characters down in Mississippi, working on a hanging case. I told y'all about Fred Jermaine Carter, that case, and Dwayne Richardson was the DA then, and he's a DA now, and he's not gonna do a damn thing. He won't even solve the most recent cases of black people hanging from trees and finding suspect deaths in white neighborhoods. He's not even interested in no cases, and they just want to use that. They try to do they did a grand jury back in 2007. He had a black woman, Joyce Childs. They failed to bring any charges against Carolyn Bryant Donald. They have gotten Bill Cosby on less, way less than Carolyn Bryant. So, I mean, it's just a lack of this intestinal fortitude, testicular fortitude. But Dwayne Richardson, I mean, he's not an old guy because he was in his 30s when he first got into office. So he's a relatively young guy. And like what Judge Joe Brown said, these guys don't want to make a name for themselves. At least the guy, the prosecutor back in the day, the Cheatham guy, who tried the Bryant and his brother Milam in Tallahatchie County, he had more courage. As a white man, he had the kill a mockingbird courage, right? He going against his way of life for the right reasons. You think about, he only lived another year after that trial. He died of a heart attack. The leading prosecutor against Roy Bryant and J.W. Milam died of a heart attack the next year. And his family said he died from the stress of dealing with the Emmett Till trial. See, it's never the Bryant Milam trial, it's the Emmett Till trial. It's Emmett Till's fault that he got killed. That's how they went, like a subliminal thing. So he died from the stress. I only think he was maybe 49, 50 years old when he died. But he was trying to do the right thing. But you got a black dude that's the DA now, and he ain't trying to do nothing. He ain't trying to sacrifice nothing. Nathan. You had the white boys that went after Bryant de LeBeckwith, the guy who killed Medgar Evers. You don't think they were ostracized by white society down there? You don't think they had any type of issues after doing that? Look up, see what they went through. What that guy went through after bringing Bryant de LeBeckwith to justice. Just don't stop at that Rob Reiner movie, which is, I guess, well done, with Whoopi Goldberg playing Marilyn Evans, Megan's widow. Go beyond the movie and Hollywood stuff and see what they end up doing to him. How he had some legal troubles. A guy who led the charge to get Bryant de LeBeckwith in prison. So Bryant de LeBeckwith in his 70s was forced to stand trial once again for the murder of Medgar Evers back in the 90s. And he spent the last 6 years of his life in prison. Think about Preacher Ray killing. Part of the mob, the conspirators and conspiracy to kill Mickey Swerner, Andrew Goodman, and John Chaney or James Chaney. Let me make sure I get James Chaney, the 3 civil rights workers, Mississippi burning case. He was on an oxygen tank in a wheelchair. They still got him back in the early 2000s, right before Chaney mom and Goodman mom passed away. They was able to see one of the people that was involved in the kidnapping and lynching of their sons finally face the music. He was in his 80s. He died when he was 92. He died in prison. There was another case. 2 young black men were found. When they were trying to find Swerner, Chaney, and Goodman, they found the remains of these 2 brothers who was trying to look for work. These young black men, they were found in a waterway. And it was a documentary done, I think, by the BBC. It was like one of the guys' brother was a Vietnam vet. He was doing a one-man crusade to find justice for his brother. Because the white folks said the guy who was responsible for killing these guys, his name, I believe, was James Ford Seal. I think he was involved in the Silver Dollar Clan, one of the most violent clavers in the country at that time. I think it was the Silver Dollar Clan. But he was in law enforcement. And the white folks lied for decades and said this man was dead. And then the law enforcement officials outside, it was the brother that really found out the dude that killed his brother and his friend was still alive. So they brought him to justice. He tried to get out on a technicality. He ended up dying in prison. So what makes Carolyn Bryant Dunham so special that she can't face the same predicament as these guys? Even with the Birmingham, the 4 little girl case. That white dude down there went after the guy, one of the conspirators, and then put him in prison. There is no statute of limitation on murder. There's none. Not yet, anyway. So we got to think about this. Black folks, let's think about this. Are we willing to do what they do? Because they don't respect their own laws. It is a tale of two Americas. But are we willing to cross that line? They have crossed that line. I'm going to tell y'all something too. See, we don't know our history. Like people talking about, I'm not my ancestors. Well, we know a lot of us ain't Eddie Noel. Look up Eddie Noel. I don't even know they got any information on Eddie Noel like that. But guess what? It's all on We All Be TV. Go to We All Be TV. We did a interview with a guy who was from that area down in Mississippi. He wrote a book about the time of Eddie Noel. Eddie Noel was a light-skinned, short, mulatto black dude who lived in Mississippi back in the 50s. His wife worked at a juke joint that was ran by a white man. The white man was screwing his wife. Everybody, the whole town laughing at me type of thing. Everybody knew that this dude was screwing his wife. She worked as a waitress at the juke joint. He went down there. He man up, went down there, told his wife it's time to go home. She didn't want to leave. The white dude, her boss who was screwing her, tried to punk him out. Dude was big, way bigger than him. He's a little smaller guy. Bullying him, pushing him around. But the thing about it is that Eddie Noel was a human machine gun. He was a crack shot, sniper level World War II veteran. Boy, that boy was amazing. He was as fast as on the draw as Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers is with football. That's how fast he was when it come to pulling that trigger. So he said, okay, you gonna do this to me? I'm gonna shoot you. Not only did he kill the boss, his wife Zaddy, he killed his wife Zaddy's daddy. He killed her boss and his daddy and the sheriff deputy. He didn't shoot the sheriff, but he shot the sheriff deputy. And that led to one of the largest manhunts in Mississippi history. This is during a snowstorm. You got 1,000 white men armed to the teeth looking for this small yellow black dude, high yellow mulatto black dude in the middle of a snowstorm the first weeks of 1954. Because this happened the first weekend of 1954 where he killed the guy who was banging his wife, who was the wife boss, killed his daddy. It's like a Quentin Tarantino movie, right? Like some Django Unchained stuff right here, right? Killed the sheriff deputy. And the thing about it is, he could have killed a whole bunch of more people because like I said, this guy was not only a crack shot and an expert marksman or a sniper level marksman, but also he knew how to do survival. In the snowstorm, he was hiding in the forest. He was watching these white guys trying to hunt him. He could have been, and they thought he was the prey. They could have been his prey. There were many times he could have shot at the white man. He could have killed a whole bunch of white men. He didn't do it. He was just trying to survive. And them white dudes were scared because there's one black dude by himself doing this. So what came out later, actually, did you have blacks and whites that knew about what happened to him, Eddie Noel? They knew about how the white man was disrespecting him and sleeping with his wife. So you had black and white families hiding him, bringing him food. This is back in 1950s Mississippi. This is a year before the Emmett Till thing. They're bringing them food. Then you had a white friend of the family bring them into the authorities. So he turned himself in, I believe, in Jackson. They put him in a mentally ill institute down there, a notorious mentally ill institution out that way. They were about to perform electric shock therapy on him, fry his brain cells. But somebody intervened. A group of people intervened. He never faced trial. This is a year before Emmett Till. He never faced trial for killing no white men. He never faced trial. Because Mississippi, Willie McGee was put to death for allegedly raping a white woman. Back in 51, May 8th, 1951, in Old Sparky, a traveling electric chair, they put Willie McGee to death for having for allegedly raping a white woman, but he said to the day he died was consensual. They had an affair. And I even talked to a white woman from that town. She said a lot of us knew that they were screwing around, but she got caught and she yelled rape, and that's that. So this is like 3 years before Eddie Noel, they put this dude to death for rape, not for murder. Think about the guys that killed Emmett Till got away with it, and they laughed and bragged about it, and got paid for their confession in Look magazine. They were interviewed by William Bradford Huey. So how can a black dude, between all this stuff going on in Mississippi in the country, Jim Crow Nation, how was he able not to face trial, let alone death penalty, capital punishment for killing 3 white men in one weekend? One even law enforcement officer, sheriff deputy. Well, the people that intervened on his behalf were very powerful relatives of his. You see that Edmund Noel was named after one of the powerful governors of Mississippi. One of his white relatives used to be the governor of Mississippi. So it was the white side of his family that saved him from facing the ultimate punishment, from having electric shock therapy done to him. I said electric shock therapy. And he lived for a relatively long time. He was in prison for some years, in that institution, locked up for some years. He got out, ended up moving to Indiana. I believe he died somewhere near in Indianapolis back in 94. I think his wife outlived him, but when the guy did the book, she didn't want to offer any comment. But Eddie Noel happened before Emmett Till. This is 54. But yeah, how many of y'all ever heard of Eddie Noel? Eddie Noel, Noel. You can't find too much on him, but thank God for We All Be TV. I interviewed the author, the white man who wrote about Eddie Noel. I believe he was from Holmes County down in Mississippi. And so, y'all keep it on. I'm not my answer. Look up Eddie Noel, okay? And not only that, July 23rd to the 27th is the 122nd anniversary of the Robert Charles riot or race war down in New Orleans. Yeah, from July 23rd to the 27th, back in 1900 New Orleans, a black guy from Mississippi named Robert Charles, who was a follower of Bishop Henry Turner, who was a very powerful politician and religious figure from Georgia, who was telling black folks that God is black and he have a right to self-defense and we need to go back to Africa. This is before Marcus Garvey. FBA, it's a little bit of FBA history. See, we was one. See, Marcus Garvey couldn't make it in Jamaica. He had to come over here and get black Americans. Y'all call them foundational black Americans. They go along with the foundation. Foundational black Americans made Marcus Garvey. But it was black people, Martin Delaney, Henry Highland Garnett. These folks you need to know. We don't talk about. They were talking about this back in the middle of the 19th century. So Robert Charles was a follower of Bishop Henry McNeil Turner. I think I said Bishop Henry McNeil, or is it Bishop Turner McNeil? Whatever. Y'all look it up. I'm trying to be everything perfect. I'm tired. It's a lot of work. So he was confronting him and his roommate was confronted by some New Orleans police officers around July 23rd, 1900. White police officers messing with them. He was waiting outside, him and his buddy. Robert Charles waiting for his girlfriend at her home where she was staying. And the cops was trying to mess with Robert Charles and his roommate. And I believe the cop was trying to draw on Robert, and Robert got the best of the cops and he shot at him, killed about a handful of police officers and some white people. And white folks had a hissy fit. They couldn't believe that a black dude was fighting back. He's shooting at the police. He killed the police. You know, the police were acting like the police officer down in Uvalde. They were so afraid of Robert. You had white police officers shaking in their boots. I'm serious. Robert Charles was walking around. He went back home, get his other weapons. Those white police officers like Keystone cops. They were afraid of Robert Charles. They were like the Uvalde police when that dude went through that school. That's how they were treating Robert Charles. And so the white folks said, enough. We're going to call in enforcement. So you had white folks from different parts of Texas, Louisiana, other places come to New Orleans and start shooting anything black in sight. They killed a whole bunch of black folks trying to look for Robert Charles. They didn't care if you was young or old. They were killing black folks, beating them up, looking for Robert Charles. One thing I love about the black community, we didn't snitch on Robert. Black folks love Robert Charles. You know, they were catching hell. Black folks didn't snitch except for one black dude did snitch on Robert Charles. That's the only way the white folks caught him. We our worst enemies. Black dude, you know, Huggy Bear type, I don't know. But he snitched on Robert Charles. He told the white folks where Robert Charles will hold up at in New Orleans. They tried to smoke out Robert Charles. They set the building on fire. Robert Charles took a couple more with him. And then I think it was a young white medical student. He climbed up on a tree and got Robert Charles. They dragged his body down the street. They mutilated that man. They shot him up so many times. You couldn't even, he was like Emmett Till before Emmett Till. If they had a picture of how his body looked, make Emmett Till like he was the sexiest man alive. No disrespect. In People magazine, how bad they did Robert Charles' body. So finally, the authorities got his body. And they made sure they buried him around sunrise in a potter's field in New Orleans, a famous, I think, Holt Cemetery or something like that. That's where Buddy Bolden buried, the first king of jazz, buried in an unmarked grave. And it was a song back in the day called The Ballad of Robert Charles. You know, if you listen to the archives of the Library of Congress, you know, General Morton was interviewed by the Lomaxes, the father and son who went around exploiting black people. Now it was like, you know, recording the music, the blues and all that. And they actually helped the career of Lead Belly, a great musician, folk artist from Louisiana. But anyway, he talked about the Ballad of Robert Charles. He said that it was very popular among black people, but it pissed off the white people. So they forgot how the song went, you know. And the snitch didn't get away with it. He was actually killed by another black guy. The black guy killed the snitch that snitched out Robert Charles. The brother was sitting on his porch reading his newspaper, I believe. He got shot on the porch. But that's the Robert Charles race war of 1900. There's a good book to read called The Carnival of Fearing that talks about the Robert Charles race war of 1900. I believe it's fair and balanced. It was written by a professor named William Ivy Hare. He's passed on. I believe he was a professor at LSU. And also Ivy Wells wrote about in real time. Now, Ivy Wells wrote about this in some of her pamphlets, the Robert Charles riots. You can find this stuff online. Y'all love Ivy Wells. Y'all don't know no Ivy Wells. I went to a documentary for Ivy Wells. It was made by the Benjamin Hooks Institute at the University of Memphis. Went to a screening last Thursday. I'm gonna post a review. And I guess I went the right day because it's a lot of Memphis who's who was there, and they knew who I was. Shout out to my good friends, Carla Thomas. If you're a music head, you know who Carla Thomas is, right? That's the queen of Memphis soul, the first lady of Stack Records, G Wiz, baby. Did that album with Otis Redding, another music immortal. But she's my friend. She's one of my friends. She really loves the stuff that we're doing at We All Be, especially honoring black musicians and the Jimmy Lunsford Legacy Award. She's been a part of that for the last several years. So I seen her, Joyce Cobb, of course, music legend in her own right here in the city of Good Abode. A couple of people. But I remember Carl Thomas was telling me, Ron, we need Ivy Wells now. I said, we don't need Ivy Wells because she existed now. We would run out of town again. They ran Ivy Wells out of Memphis when she was 29 years old. 130 years ago. Now they want to honor her now, but it's funny how they do. It's like Malcolm X. Black folks ran the other way when they saw Malcolm on the street corners talking to the people. Now they want to run towards him. We need Malcolm. Y'all don't need no Malcolm. Y'all need to listen to the way he told us and need to act accordingly, because it don't make no sense that the stuff he talked about 60 years ago is still relevant. That means we haven't learned the lesson. The Miseducation of the Negro by Dr. Carter G. Woodson should be outdated in 2022. It's not. Yeah, like it's something to be brag about. How is it wisdom when you don't even get the lesson? When you didn't get the meaning of what he was saying, the assignment. When we ass backwards as a people, man. If we're gonna be concerned about it, we need to be concerned about the Congo as much as some of y'all concerned about Ukraine. You could say the most important assassination of the 20th century was not Martin or RFK or JFK or Malcolm X. It was Patrice Lumumba. That's the most important assassination of the 20th century. And a lot of very powerful and ominous geopolitical implications. Patrice Lumumba was first prime minister of the Congo after they became liberated, but he was betrayed by Mobutu. And they were so afraid of Patrice Lumumba that after they killed him, they hacked up his body and dissolved it in liquid. Only thing that was left of Patrice Lumumba was his gold tooth. And they just returned his gold tooth to the family like a year or two ago. Because they want to build no shrine to honor Patrice Lumumba. That's why it was a mistake to move Medgar Evers' body from Jackson and have it in Arlington. I mean, it was cool to respect him. He is a national hero. But imagine if Medgar Evers was buried in Jackson, Mississippi, instead of in Washington, outside of Washington, D.C., how Black people could rally around that. There's something sacred about it. I mean, they know us better than we know us. Things look different in Mississippi. There's power in that type of stuff. But look up Eddie Noel. And like I said, we can help y'all. We did an interview with the author of the book, The Time of Eddie Noel. See what else. Ali Povo, The Time of Eddie Noel. It should be out on Amazon. Let me see. Yeah, let me show y'all. Brother Ron be trying to be a part of the solution, not the problem here. I think I'm about to close it up. I could stay on here and talk about a lot of different things, but I think I did my due diligence. I think I did. Let me see if I can pull up this right quick. And if you like the words from Brother Hurd, support the channel. Let's get to 100,000 subscribers. Help me get to 100,000. You think I deserve it? All this stuff I've been through, all the criticism, the tough luck. You got folks that made it to at least 1 million. I can't get 100,000. Y'all don't love Ron Hurd. Y'all don't love We All Be. My Snoop Dogg 95 Source Awards voice. Y'all don't love We All Be. I know where I'm at. Y'all don't love We All Be. well, let it be known then. Okay. Time of Eddie Noel. Great. It cost how much? It cost $95. No, I found this book. My sister found this book. I always have this thing that you don't choose the books choose you. So my sister found this book years ago in a bargain bin. It was like a liquidation sale. Now they're saying this book worth almost $100. Knowledge is powerful. Just like Judge Joe Brown was talking about the Glass House tapes. Louis Teakwood book, Glass House tapes. That book, when we looked on Amazon, was about $1,000. But go to the Internet Archive. People got it as a PDF file. I just downloaded it not too long ago. The Glass House tape, talk about it being an agent provocateur. This guy who was a police informant, agent provocateur, he exposing everything. This book came out in the 70s. I don't even know what happened to Louis Teakwood. He might be dead. He may not be dead. I don't know. But that's a book y'all need to read. But this book y'all definitely need to read. Because this is the reason why problem white boys did what they did to Emmett Till. Because they always talk about, the two deaths that led up to Emmett Till back in 55. You had Lamar Smith, who got killed down in Brookhaven, Mississippi, in broad daylight in the middle of the day on a courthouse lawn with all these witnesses. Yeah, white and black folks saw this man get shot down in cold blood on a courthouse lawn down in Brookhaven, Mississippi back in 55, and nobody was never, ever held responsible for his death. Then you had Reverend George Lee, who was shot in the face as he was driving. Nobody was never, ever held accountable for that. And then several weeks later, you got Emmett Till. But the year before, you had Eddie Noel. And he wasn't kicking ass and taking no names. Little short guy, but it was a human machine gun, Eddie Noel. But I'm sure if somebody got this book out there in PDF form, I ain't gonna pay no $100 for it, but I'd say it's like it ain't that much information out there by Eddie Noel like that, and should be. And I'm gonna show you, for example, with the Glass House tape, how much they got it showing on there. See, nobody ain't doing what I'm doing, man. Y'all understand like all the stress I be under, and I like to have 1,000 people in my chat. 6,000 people give me baby showers, and I don't got no babies or nothing. Let me show you like the Glass House tape thing, right? See how much this book cost. See how much they say it got cost? $671.50. Why these books are not more accessible? See, knowledge is power. Y'all don't understand. Like they say, you want to hide something from black people. If you want to hide something from people in general, put it in a book. Why are these books so hard to get? What's in these books they don't want you to know about? But you can find the Glass House tapes. And go to Internet Archive. It's a place where they keep all this stuff. I mean, it's a powerful place to get information. And they got the Glass House tapes available in PDF form. It won't take up that much space on your computer. It's about 145 pages, but it's like 2 pages in each page. Somebody took the time to scan the book, so it could be more accessible. I ain't gonna pay no $1,000 almost, or no half a thousand for this book. But why is this book not in circulation where it's more accessible? Question y'all gotta ask yourselves. And also, let me see. It's so much stuff, man. I think I'm talking about all the stuff I need to talk about, because the Emmett Till stuff is interesting. Y'all know the anniversary is coming up. Yeah, your knowledge is sold back to you. Think about it. They repackaged rock and roll. They call it something else. We call it R&B. They call it rock and roll, right? Jazz, everything. We the biggest consumers and the biggest fools sometimes. All right. Somebody should get there as a gift, them books. The Time of Eddie Noel and the Glass House tapes. We love you madly, Sister Alexandria. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, brother. Consistent. You tune in. I know I don't do the best job of sending notices out. A lot of times these be like, last moment game time decisions. I go on the air. But I want to make sure I go on the air because it's got a lot of things I'm digging in the archives. I want to make more accessible to you all. I finally saw the rest of the Women of the Movement thing by Emmett Till, Bradley, trying to find justice for Emmett. Give a shout out to Will Smith and Jay-Z for putting the money behind their project. But actually looking forward to the Emmett Till movie coming out in October that was produced by Whoopi Goldberg and a friend of the We All Be TV platform, Keith Beauchamp. I'm working on getting Keith on the show in the next couple of days. Now, Keith did a documentary back in the early 2000s, which motivated the FBI to reopen the Emmett Till case. He actually started working on this documentary back in the late 90s. I think his goal at that time was to make a feature film. But he ended up making a documentary. He ended up becoming good friends with Mamie Till Mobley, Emmett's mom. And so for the last several years, they were really close. He ended up interviewing her for his documentary and interviewed relatives of Emmett Till. He found a lot of interesting information that was not known at the time. but his documentary and his research motivated the FBI to reopen the case, and they closed it, I think, in 2008 after the grand jury down in Greenville refused to bring an indictment against Carolyn Bryant Dunham. Now, the FBI agent during that time that interviewed Carolyn Bryant, he said recently, I'm trying to get him on the show too. It's some people I want to get on the show. I want to do a couple of Emmett Till shows, but if y'all can support this, if y'all really like what I'm doing, support it. Cash App your support, PayPal, Google Pay, Zelle your support at r2c2h2@gmail.com, Vimo at r2c2h2. Buy art, r2c2h2.com. You can wear it. I got my Emmett Till shirt. I'm repping the Emmett. Got my Emmett on. We struggled to death. I did this back in college over 20 years ago for the freshman art show. The white folks didn't know what to do with it. They put it high up on the wall so people couldn't see it, but it was so big they couldn't help us see it. But that's an iconic piece of art there you can wear on your chest, courtesy of Brother Ron and We All Be News Free Dixie for the 21st century. But I want to do a couple Emmett Till shows with like relatives, historians, legal people that actually was on the front lines. So we did like the Women of the Movement limited series was based on one of the books that was done by Devery Anderson. He's a white Mormon brother out in Utah, I believe. He had a relationship with Mammy Till Bradley or Mobley as well. He got real close to her. So he actually did a lot of exhaustive research about the Emmett Till case and all this stuff. And I'll highly recommend checking out his book as well. Let me see. Give y'all some homework to do. Because Derek got some good stuff on his website. And I interviewed him several years ago as well. I interviewed him a couple of times before his book came out on Emmett Till. Let me see. Go to his website. Try to support people that's doing the work. And support We All Be. I don't know, my screen is messing up, but let me get his website on the air. All right, this is Brother Devery Anderson. Go to DeveryAnderson.com. You got a lot of interesting information on Emmett Till. This is his book. Like even on the front cover now is the book that inspired the ABC series Women of the Movement. It's a white guy, but a lot of times it be the white dudes that write the best stuff, right? We don't take time as a people to actually document our story a lot of times, which is unfortunate because we got so many stories to tell, But Devery Anderson wrote a very detailed book, and also he got a lot of good information. Like the reason why you should go to the site, he got some Emmett Till resources. It's made to the time to scan articles from back in the day that talked about the case. He even got the Look magazine article where the brothers confess and the follow-up that William Bradford Huey did when they became pariahs of the community when they was ran out of Mississippi. He got a response to that a year later, but he got these magazines that he uploaded to his website from that time period. Even this story that his uncle, Mose Wright, Emmett Till uncle, tells his side of the story. And I think it's very important to get that information because, like I said, that like Mose Wright was a coward. He wasn't no coward. He was a man caught in a hard place. He did the best he could. Cause, he was real close to Mammy. His daughter went to live with his sister, Mammy's mom. She raised his daughter. So Emmett was like a little sister to his daughter. I mean, like a little brother to his daughter. She was like, I think 10 years older than Emmett. So it's the Look magazine. It's just the infamous Look magazine article. Look was like Life. They both, they don't print no more. I think Look started at the same time. Life and Look magazine both started around the same time in the 30s. And they actually stopped printing around the same time in the 70s, like a year apart of each other. But this is where you can find the infamous Emmett Till article where the brothers confess, quote unquote. So go to DeveryAnderson.com. Also, he got a who's who. I mean, it's some good stuff he got here, man. And it's the follow-up article here. After they exiled, what happened to Emmett Till killers is a year later follow-up. So, I mean, let's get this done. This is powerful stuff. This is our story. And also, you know, all the Jet magazines are archived online through Google Books as well, too. Every Jet magazine ever made could be found online. The whole archive. So it's amazing even to think about how what black folks were thinking about back in the 50s and 60s. It's almost like what people are thinking about today. It's kind of scary. They were talking about people swirling back then. You know, like they're talking about how some black guys were getting with Asian women, and they were talking about a lot of interesting things on Jet magazines back in the 50s. I think the 50s was all innocent. And we know it wasn't innocent because what happened to Emmett Till, but you know, the idea of the 50s being all pure and innocent, and and things we thought were taboo wasn't really taboo. People were talking about it. Just check out the Jet magazines from the 50s. Let me see. And he also took the time to put a who's who in the Emmett Till case. Like he got all these people that were connected to the case. A lot of people you never heard of. Let's think about it like this way. The last juror that served on the Emmett Till case on the murder trial just passed away a year ago. About 2 years ago. He was 101 years old. He lived in Memphis for a long time. Ended up moving to North Carolina. He got a list of all the who's who of the Emmett Till murder saga on his website. He's adding people as he learned more. I respect it. I respect his scholarship. I mean, he's an interesting cat. Guy right here, I'm gonna put my little pointer at Randall E. Murph, 1919 through 2020, was a member of the 18-man Tallahatchie County grand jury that handed down indictments of murder and kidnapping against J.W. Malum and Roy Bryant on September 6, 1955. He later moved to Memphis, Tennessee. He married Blanche Brown in 1942, who died in 2014. He is a veteran of World War II. They moved to Silver, North Carolina in 2008 to be close to the family. His death at 101 years old made him the longest living member of any other jurors who heard evidence in the Till case. I believe you still got some people around that was at the court trial. But like, think about it, it happened over 60 years ago. So a lot of these folks that move on to the other side. But the fact that the last juror just died in 2020 show you that we think it was a long time ago, but it wasn't a long time ago, excuse me. You know, my great-grandfather was born into slavery. That's my great-grandfather. That's my paternal grandmother's father. So that wasn't that long ago. He died during the Great Depression. You got them slave narratives, former slaves talking about what happened to them. It's back in the 40s and 50s and stuff. So this stuff is not that long ago. So stop saying it was a long time ago. Get over it, BS. You got white folks still claiming they relate to William Braveheart. That was a long time ago. But when that Braveheart movie came out, every white person, I mean, I'm related to William Wallace. I'm William Wallace. I'm Malcolm X. I'm Malcolm X. I'm William Wallace. I'm William Wallace. I'm William Wallace. Okay, so that's not a long time ago. But yeah, check out DeveryAnderson.com. A lot of interesting information. But look up Eddie Noel, man. But you started We All Be. Learn about Robert Charles. Let me show that book. I guess I'm educate y'all. Y'all gonna look out for it, brother? Robert Charles. There's so much to talk about. I'm loving this technology, but a lot of times we don't use technology for the right stuff. There's so much information to devour. Let's see. Amazon.com. I need to come out with my Robert Charles book anyway. I got a lot of things I'm sitting on. I'm just trying to learn as I get older how to get out of my own way and get out of my head. There's a lot of stuff I want to do, but I keep on stopping myself doing it. And I need to do it. I just feel like, I'm in Memphis, man. I don't understand. It takes a lot to motivate yourself where I'm at. If I can make it in Memphis, I can make it anywhere. Okay. So I want to, it's time to try my leg somewhere else, I think. Y'all put in the description, in a chat room, why I should go, why I should move my operation. Because Memphis has been a nice ride, but I think I'm going to get out of here. But let me show where you can find Robert Charles at. Go to Amazon.com. Get this book. And look how much they got the hard copy for. They trying to sell it for almost $120, the hard copy. I got a paperback version of Carnival of Fury. It's worth the read because it tell you about, I'm tired of people trying to diss the ancestors. A lot of us wouldn't be here if some of us didn't fight back. Like I told you, go look at that picture. I'm going to pull up the picture of the 24th. They had their legs crossed. They knew they were going to die. They knew they ain't going to get no justice. This is 1 month removed from the East St. Louis massacre, where they were throwing black babies back into burning buildings, where they were throwing black folks into the Mississippi River to drown them, where they were doing drive-bys. This is like majority of the black folks who was in East St. Louis were from where? Mississippi. They had factories. They actually was white workers were on strike, and so recruiters were going down to Mississippi to bring black folks to work in East St. Louis because the white dudes, after they was on strike, unions were formed to keep skillful black folks from having jobs. That's why they formed unions. The most skilled labor class after the Civil War were black people out of slavery. And they formed unions to keep black folks from working. So I guess they were crossing the line, you call them scabs or what do you call them? I don't know. But anyway, a lot of black folks were murdered. 4th of July. This happened around the 4th of July. So y'all talk about the Highland Park, what happened on 4th of July this year. I'm going to talk about the East St. Louis race massacre. See, well, black folks got to learn how to do that. Every time white folks talk about this mass shooting, I'm going to talk about what they did in this massacre over here on so-and-so date. It's not just Tulsa, not just Rosewood. It's a lot of different Black Wall Street massacres around the country. You got drown towns. It's a lot of stuff we can talk about. I'm trying to get y'all this ammunition. But yeah, did they got this on Kindle format? But yeah, get the Carnival of Fury. That's worth a read. And also, you can find Ida B. Wells. Let me go to the Gutenberg. It's called the Gutenberg. They got like all this stuff, the literary works that's in public domain. It's a site you go to. You go to Internet Archive, look at the Internet Archive, and also it's a place you go to Gutenberg Project. I'm gonna look at the Gutenberg Project and just give y'all this information. I'm gonna wrap it up by the end of the hour. But like I said, y'all believe in the work that I'm doing. Support the work. Cause we actually doing stuff on the ground. I ain't gonna go to DC this October because we're doing a Jimmy Lunsford thing here in Memphis. We losing a lot of good people in Memphis. A lot of people getting killed in Memphis. Not just young Dolph. We just lost a wonderful black woman. I know her daughter, Reverend Williams. She just got killed. She got carjacked, victim of a carjacking at her home. She dedicated her life to not only raising her beautiful 4 children, but also to make sure that black children will have a second chance in the city of Good Abode. She did not believe in throwing away black kids. And yes, she was killed by a 15-year-old, allegedly. See, in Memphis, if you ride around in Infinity, you a target. Memphis, see, I be telling people from Memphis, people say, oh man, that's crazy. But if I believe everything they say about Memphis on the news, I'll be afraid to leave my loft. I'll be afraid to deal with anybody, to talk to anybody. So it's not like what they say, but it is bad out here. It's bad everywhere because of how it's a. But anyway, but she was a good woman. She got killed last week. But I love what her daughter said. Shout out to Aniana Hampton. She said, "Don't use my mom's death." Basically, what she said on her Facebook status: "Don't use my mom's death to justify throwing away kids." She in grief. She not only just lost her mom this month, she also lost her aunt early in the month. So they preparing for 2 funerals. The first funeral, her aunt, is this weekend. Then her mom coming up the first week of August. And she's a neighbor of mine. And she good people. But we losing a lot of people, man. A lot of good people. So it's not just young Dolph. He did a lot of good too. But I'm saying there's a lot of good people losing their life trying to help our people. Like I said, if Ida B. Wells existed today, they would run out of Memphis again. Because anybody that want to hold us accountable to try to elevate us, who really love us, who serve us, we despise as a people. We despise them. So let's see. Kind of fire. Yeah, I'm looking for the Gutenberg Project. This is a place where you could go to find like a lot of great literary works that's in the public domain. Find works by Nietzsche, Shakespeare. A lot of Dr. W.E. Du Bois's work is in the public domain. You know, y'all just know him for the soul of black folks and stuff like that. He was very prolific. You know, y'all want to typecast Du Bois. Complex like Garvey. There's a lot of complexities to him. Like I was trying to tell Judge Joe Brown last week. Yeah, your boy, your Thurgood Marshall wasn't informing. You see how Judge like, well, you know, you're not really informing. He was like, you know, he like barbecue sauce. Nah, Judge cool, but I'm saying like, yeah, your boy was an informant for J. Edgar Hoover. You can't sugarcoat that. But you know, Thurgood did what he had to do. It don't take away from the fact that he risked his life representing black people agendas in court. You walk around baseball bats and guns and stuff. You know, Thurgood was no pushover. He from Baltimore. Okay, this is the Gutenberg. Show y'all the Gutenberg Project. See, I know how, because people ask me what books I should read, how I get these books. I wouldn't advise y'all to pay no hundreds of dollars for certain books. You get a Carnival of Fury. You get it as a paperback for $18.95. I already paid $20, then $120 for the book. It's a good book. You need to know this history. Let me find. Let's see. Stop screen. Bring up this Gutenberg Project. I can't believe 2 hours almost gone. It's crazy. Everything going real fast. But I hope y'all can understand the words come out of my mouth. I know I talk fast. Okay, this is the Gutenberg Project. The Project Gutenberg. You know, that's them after the guy who get the first printing press, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But they got books by everybody, but these are some of the books by Ida B. Wells. You click on those links, get PDF files, whatever. You got the famous red record. Got different ways you could download that for free. Y'all love get things for free. You know, Ida B. Wells paid a price for getting this knowledge. Mob rule in New Orleans. This is about the Robert Charles riots. See, this is good to read because this is actually from the time that everything went down. And what I love about Ida B. Wells, she give the victim a name and a story. They're not just victims, they're people. So she'll give you a background on Robert Charles and all this other stuff. And then she talking about what they did to him. So she humanizes black victims. Because first, Ida B. Wells, like a lot of black folks, you know how a lot of us be thinking, well, what? No, when you hear somebody get killed by police, or what did they do wrong? You know how we be thinking sometimes. And Ida B. Wells used to think about that when black folks were getting lynched. Say they must be thugs and stuff like that. It wasn't until it hit home for her when her best friend Thomas Moss was lynched that she changed her tune. Because he was a successful black businessman. Him and his business partner were lynched. Calvin McDowell and Will Henry Stewart, called the lynching at the curve the people grocery lynching. They were lynched because they were successful black businessmen in competition with a white man who was losing out in business against them. A lot of the lynching victims were black business people. Think about Black Wall Street. They were destroying black excellence, black business. And contrary to popular opinion, this is why we got to learn how to research. Black Wall Street did come back. They didn't get no insurance money, but they built that town, that section up, Greenwood. Greenwood was thriving during the Great Depression. But white folks use urban renewal or Negro removal, as James Baldwin once said, and gentrification. They built that damn expressway in the middle of the heart of the community. They finally got rid of Black Wall Street. The Tulsa Race Massacre did not get rid of Black Wall Street. It was gentrification and urban renewal and them building that expressway in the middle of Greenwood. They got rid of Black Wall Street. So it's Ida B. Wells stuff. Lynch law. I mean, there's no excuse not to know about the works of this righteous ancestor. And now they're trying to make Ivy Wells part of the alphabet crew. They're trying to make a Skittles icon. And I'm going to talk about that as well. I can't go for that. I can't go for that. No, can't do. No, can't do. Oh, I can't go for that. And you should be going for that either. But get these works. They all free. Different forms. Even got a Kindle format. HTML. Read it online. And it's like W.E. Du Bois. Let's look up Du Bois. Got Booker T. Washington, Frederick Douglass, everything up in here. Let's see him write the word right. You said W.E. Du Bois. I guess people got smart. Trying to find it. Let's try Du Bois. You got to play around with this stuff. Okay. Okay, this is all W.E. Du Bois. You got even something about John Brown. Dick Gregory's hero, the greatest American, according to Dick Gregory. This is like stuff we kind of give for black folk, the Negroes in the making of America. Conservation of race, souls of black folks. They loved it for black studies class. Oppression of the African slave trade in the United States. I think this was his dissertation right here. Helped him become the first black person to get a PhD in Africa. In Harvard University. Excuse me, I said Africa. Du Bois' work right here. So y'all probably y'all heard of Souls of Black Folks, but what about Dark Water, Voices from Within the Veil? The Veil. The Quest of the Silver Fleece, a novel. So this is free. As y'all like to say, y'all love the word free, but it's cost to run websites and make this stuff, the man hours it take to make this accessible to people. So you can donate to them. But I'll let you know there's other places out here you get this information. And stop letting people tell you how to think and think for yourself. William Cooper, that's a good question. I'm reading. I got to thank you for reminding me. I don't know where you get a copy. I got it through Kindle. I'm reading his book, the Behold a Pale Horse. I'm reading it through Kindle. So I don't know how to get an actual hard copy. And William Cooper had a lot of truth for what he was saying. So, hell, maybe might get on here. I don't know. They have Behold a Pale Horse. I got them guy on here, but okay, but let's work on the Emmett Till thing. Keep people in your thoughts and prayers. But give it a Bill Cosby treatment, And also in the book, the memoir. I know I'm jumping on all over the place. She had it in a thing where after the trial and after Bryant is home, her husband, they're in the store because their home was at the store too. They had their living quarters behind the store in the back of the store. And she said in the book that it was a red light beaming through their bedroom from across the railroad tracks. She said it was like this weird light coming at them, and they were so spooked out by it that the next day they left and never returned back to the store. They packed all their things up and got out of Dodge. She said it was this weird red light that was beaming towards them. She thought she was dreaming. So I don't even know what that was about. I don't know, is that a metaphor or whatever? What is that about? Because she said she was awake and alert, and that this weird red light was this focus on them in the middle of the night. But if y'all can find a way to get your hand on a copy of that memoir, it's funny, it's hilarious. It's like fried green tomatoes on steroids and the help. She talking about how black folks were good. My best friends were colored growing up and all this stuff. At one time, she went to a black church. Her and daddy had a good time, but her mama told them not to ever go back to the black church again. She said, I like how the black people, how they worship and all that crap. And she talking about how she wanted to climb on this hanging tree. Her boyfriend, whatever, showed her the hanging tree, and she said, that'd be a good tree to climb. I was a tomboy, and all this other crap, right? And I feel sorry in a way, but I don't feel sorry for her hardships because nobody gets away with it. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause, I mean, she lost her sons, daughter was deaf, married 3 times, but Emmett was denied a life. He was not even allowed to be a man. Y'all killed him. Y'all kept on calling him a man. He was just a boy. He didn't deserve that. I had talked to a guy at the A.L.L screening last week. Young guy, got good heart. He was actually an extra in the Women of the Movement series that was filmed down in Mississippi. They filmed the whole thing, I believe, in Mississippi. And I asked him about Carolyn Bryant. He said it was so emotional being an extra. He was in the courtroom scenes. And he said it was so emotional for him to be. He's a white guy. He's a good young white kid. And I said, so what you think should happen to Carolyn Bryant? He said, man, that's a good question. I'm kind of conflicted. I said, I'm not conflicted. Give her the Bill Cosby treatment. If she can't survive 3 years, they try to kill Bill Cosby in prison. He was in the prison and had a high number of COVID cases. Try to get early release, they wouldn't release him. That man was in prison for 3 years, legally blind, all type of health issues. He survived. So if Carolyn Bryant, I say they put Carolyn Bryant in prison like that, give her the Bill Cosby treatment. If she can survive for 3 years, let her go. I have some type of kindness and mercy in my heart, but I don't feel sorry for her because she lived a full life, for better or for worse. She got to live her life. She got to have grandkids and great grands and all this other stuff, be married, you know, all this stuff. I don't feel sorry. She just feels so caged. What you should have told the truth. You did tell the truth, but you didn't tell the truth. Is you is or is you ain't. But bring on one more story. Yeah, my shirt. The shirt is available. Go below. This is my shirt, my Emmett Till shirt. Go below. If you're on YouTube, go below the video description box. There's a shelf linked to my official Teespring shirt site. I got this shirt for sale. Got a lot of different shirts for sale. A lot of jazz, music, culture, our history, our stories. We wear our stories at We All Be. We wear our stories, so it's available. Just access that shelf down there below this video description of this video. You can get access to it. But learn about Lewis Till. It's a gentleman that wrote a book I'm going to read. Let me promote his book. He's a well-known Black author, very prolific, brilliant mind. Trying to help my people out. Let's see. His name is John Edgar Wideman. He wrote a book called Writing to Save a Life. The Lewis Till File. Yeah, the Lewis Till File. It's on Amazon. About I like a better. He had a better cover. I like. Sorry for the dead air, people. Let me show the Amazon cover, and then I'll show this cover I like. It's called Writing to Save a Life, the Lewis Till File. I'm going to read that book. It's on my read list. But it's so much to us as a people, man. We've been through so much hell. Let's see, son. Mm-mm-mm. We all be news-free dicks for 21st century. Somebody asked me I was related to Robert F. Williams because they said he used Radio Free Dixie. I got my inspiration from Robert F. Williams, Robert Franklin Williams. But my cousin worked closely with Robert F. Williams, the late, great Julian Mayfield, activist, author, playwright, actor, revolutionary. His wife, Dr. Anna Cordero, was the personal physician of Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois over in Ghana. Malcolm X used to stay at their home when he visited Ghana. And she also saved the life of Maya Angelou's son. He got into a real bad motorcycle accident over in Africa. He was going to die, and if he didn't die, he was going to be paralyzed for the rest of his life. And my cousin-in-law, Dr. Anna Cordero, saved his life and made sure he wasn't paralyzed. So these my people. So I got a Robert F. Williams connection through my cousin in blood, Julian Mayfield. He used to get guns for Robert F. Williams in Monroe, North Carolina. Let's see. That's the book, Writing to Save a Life, the Lewis Till file. A major literary figure tells a searching tale of loss, recovery, and deja vu that is part memoir and what if speculation, part polemic and expose about two generations of one family, civil rights martyr Emmett Till and his father Lewis, shortlisted for the National Book Critic Circle Award. You know what's interesting about Emmett Till and his father? This is crazy. This is crazy. Not this book, but y'all, you know, and it's affordable. Like the Kindle version, the electronic version, $11.99. Hardcover is $25. But it was another one I like. Another book cover he had of this book that I really enjoy. Let's find that book cover. Okay, it's on eBay, but you can find this. I'm just fascinated by this book cover. It got to be Emmett's father because they got pictures of people that's not Emmett's father that said, like Lewis Allen, he was a civil rights model down Mississippi. They got him as Emmett's father on his final grave thing. That's not him. That's another civil rights model, Lewis Allen, I believe his name was. Let's see. Yeah, I like that book cover. That's a book cover I want. There's probably a picture of Emmett's father. You can see he was a very dashing young man, just 23 years old when they killed him. Just 23 years old. His son was 14. He was 23. They never had a chance. And on eBay, it's $9.19. So that's interesting. So 23 years old. Never had a chance. Son 14. Never knew what happened to his son. And the son never knew what happened to his father. I told you it took him over 10 years to finally get an answer because the family tried to find out what happened to him because he actually was sending money home to Mammy and Emmett. And then the money stopped coming. And that's when Mammy figured out something happened to him. And then she got like I guess a postcard or a telegram or something from the military saying that he died because of willful misconduct. He died because of his own fault. It was his fault that he died, but they never told her how and why he died until after the trial when Senator James Eastland, Joe Biden's mentor, the neo-Dixiecrat, his mentor, spilled the beans to the press, unleashed the military records that the family couldn't get for over 10 years. So Emmett never knew what happened to his father. And the father never knew what happened to Emmett. And then was crazy, you know, Bob Dylan wrote a song about Emmett Till, about what happened to Emmett Till. And then Ezra Pound, one of the most important literary figures of the 20th century. This is the guy who discovered T.S. Eliot, William Faulkner, F. Scott Fitzgerald, Ernest Hemingway. He was a political prisoner in Italy. He was a prison mate of Louis Till. This guy was an enemy of the state because he would broadcast on the radio about the United States, the fascist United States, and their leader, Franklin Roosevelt. So he was an enemy of America. And they put him in prison. He was a political prisoner of war. The great literary figure, Ezra Pound, who was put in the mental institution for years outside of D.C., I think called St. Elizabeth. They put him in mental institution, not because he was crazy, because he dared to question authority. He dared to ask the questions that nobody want the answer to, let alone had the courage to ask. He actually he commissioned Eustace Mullins, I believe, white dude from Virginia, Eustace Mullins. He died not too long ago, to write The Secrets of the Federal Reserve. Find that book online, The Secrets of the Federal Reserve by Eustace Mullins. He was commissioned by Ezra Pound to write that about the history of the Federal Reserve. Y'all do know that the Federal Reserve was started on Jekyll's Island off the shore of Georgia, right? Georgia is a deep state. You understand? They just blew up the Georgia Guidestones a couple weeks ago. I went to the Georgia Guidestones. I need to do a show about the Georgia Guidestones. I actually went there. I went there the same day. It's back in May of 2018 that a lady from England went. I call her Nikki. Her name's Nikki. I called her Illuminati Nikki, and I'm Boule Ron. And Illuminati Nikki had this amazing road trip. She started in San Francisco. Her goal was to drive from San Francisco to New York City and to see a lot of America's historic landmarks. Like, you know, everything. I mean, she was making it. And I just so happened I was on my way to Montgomery, but something told me, why don't you just go up to the Georgia Guidestones up in Georgia, in Elberton. I think it's Elberton, Georgia. Don't quote me on this. But I went up there. And so like Georgia Guidestones, it's like a conspiracy theory. It was erected back in March of 1980 in the middle of a cow pasture by an unknown group. And it's like the 10 Commandments for the New World Order. It's in like 9 different languages. It's like the 10 Commandments. Like their goal was to get the world's population down to about 500 million people. And then they had a code, like a 10 Commandments, of how to live in this new world order. So I went up there, and it's kind of weird. It's like, you know, you got this thing in the middle of nowhere. You got a security camera across the street. Unless it doesn't work. You got some people that did vandalism on the thing. Been there for almost, you know, it's like, you know, they didn't see who did that to the Georgia Guidestones, who blew it up. And they got cameras and stuff. But anyway, that's another story for another day. Let's see. Man. So much to cover, man. So little time. What time is it? Oh, I'm already over tomorrow. Let me I don't know if I got to everything I want to get to. I don't write stuff down. I just do impromptu. Let me tell you about this story. It's the last story. This brother right here. We talk about Robert F. Williams, right? Let's talk about this brother right here. Very fascinating brother, man. I mean, I keep telling I'm not my ancestor. You wish you had the courage of some of these guys. I just, man, he like Black history is stranger than science fiction, man. I'm pull this picture up, and I promise I'll let y'all go read through in a few moments. So class in a session. Class in a session, okay? This is a guy from Monroe, North Carolina, right here. That's Robert F. Williams' hometown. You know, Robert F. Williams, Negroes with Guns, Radio Free Dixie. Let's see if I can blow this picture up a little bit. He's on his way to die. Military guy. He was just 22 years old when they killed him, when the U.S. military killed him. But maybe they had a good reason to kill him. But I want y'all to learn about this guy before I get out of here. This is Herman Perry from Monroe, North Carolina. Born May 16th, 1922, sunrise. Sunset, March 15, 1945, was an African-American soldier serving in the U.S. Army during World War II who deserted after killing an unarmed white lieutenant attempting to arrest him. First of all, why he was unarmed trying to arrest anybody, but it's another story. After being sentenced to death, he escaped custody, and the manhunt was launched while he lived in the jungle. Perry was eventually recaptured once more and court-martialed. He was hanged for murder and desertion, making him the only American executed in the China-Burma India theater during World War II. This guy was just 22 years old. Survived in the jungle. He survived in the jungles of North America. He was survived in the jungle. With tigers and stuff. I'm just going to read this I can read this thing right quick. Get an idea. He was born, like I said, May 16, 1922, in the rural outskirts of Monroe, North Carolina. His mother, teenager Flonnie Perry, and father, Prada Salzbrook, were unmarried. Salzbrook left when Herman was young. Herman moved with his mother to Washington, D.C., and got a job as a butcher's apprentice. Following America's entry into the Second World War in December of 1941, Perry was enlisted. He did not attend his first draft board appointment and was arrested for non-compliance. He had a problem with white authority. This man was a rebel rouser. Like I said, he came from Monroe, North Carolina, the same hometown of Robert F. Franklin, revolutionary. Understand, he was Marine. Robert F. Williams was Marine. As a soldier in the Army's 849th Engineer Aviation Battalion, he served in the China-Burma India Theater, helping to construct the Lido Road. On March 3rd, 1944, Perry's CO, Lieutenant Harold Caddy, attempted to apprehend him for dereliction of duty and place him in the area's military prison. Perry had previously served time in this prison and was well aware of the abuses that went on there. When he was found, he was holding a rifle and repeatedly warned Katie not to approach him and to get back. He warned the dude. Now, the dude didn't have no gun. Danger. Why the dude trying to arrest him didn't have no gun? He in the military. What is it? What type of arresting he trying to do? Katie continued to advance, and Perry fired his rifle, shooting Caddy in the stomach, and a wound he died from. He fled into the wilderness and lived out a fugitive's life of jungle survival. Happenstance founded a morong, a bamboo structure on stilts built over a pigsty, which served as a bachelor's quarter for a tribe of the Naga people of northeastern India. Can't make this up. And northern Burma. It is unknown exactly how Perry managed to win the tribe over, but his familiarity with their language undoubtedly helped. And he also offered them goods which he had taken from the military store. So they the Naga people. So I guess he's a Naga from North Carolina. So they the Naga people. They say he knew the language. He's not even from there. So it's interesting. What they trying to say? We all related. We all be in it. The Naga people. That's N-A-G-A people. The Nagas. They say he knew the language. They say, you my Naga. We Nagas. Okay, let me stop now. After adapting to the head hunting lifestyle of the tribe, which the Ang or village chief told him was called Tagunga. Tagunga by the Burmese. And forgive me if I'm mispronouncing this stuff, but y'all look this up. Take a look. It's all online. Take a look. It's all online. He eventually won the Ang's respect and approval to the extent that he even married the Ang's 14-year-old daughter, with whom he also had a child. So he got an heir out there. So he did an R. Kelly. See, R. Kelly should have went over there to Burma. Players only, headhunters only. So he married a 14-year-old and had a child about. And the village chief gave up his daughter. Ain't that something? So R. Kelly should have went overseas. Anyway, the Army appointed Lieutenant Colonel Earl Owen Cullum, a former Dallas police officer. I bet he was packing. I bet he a Dallas police officer. He ain't from Texas unless he packing. You know he got to be. If he from Texas, he packing. And at that point in 1944, the commander of the 159th Military Police Battalion in the China-Burma India Theater to lead the manhunt. Perry was nearly caught twice by the Army, but escaped both times. The initial encounter left Perry simply grazed on the ankle by a bullet, but by the second, he suffered more serious wounds that injured his Achilles tendon because he was trying to play basketball. After being captured in the third encounter, he was court-martialed for murder and convicted, being sentenced to death on September 4th, 1944. He escaped again soon after sentence and evaded capture for several months. He was finally captured in Assam on March 9th, 1945, and his death sentence by hanging was carried out on March 15th. I believe Louis Till was hanged March 2nd, 1945. They love hanging these brothers, you know. They just Jim Crow. The world is Jim Crow. They just love hanging a brother. No firing squad. We got to hang you. White people, they was doing firing squads on them for desertion. But black folks, we got to hang them. His story was initially covered up by the army leadership. I wonder why. He embarrassed them. He like Houdini on them. He kept on escaping. He could have led a revolution with those locals, the Naga people. Y'all look up the documentary Coconut Revolution. We'll talk about that another time. Find Coconut Revolution if you can. Because they keep on taking it off of YouTube and stuff. Find Coconut Revolution. His story was initially covered up by army leadership, but soon after revealed by the same leader of the manhunt. White folks loved bragging about their kills, their trophy kills. Lieutenant Colonel Earl Owen Cullum, he had a gun. Years later, Cullum would further publicize his firsthand accounts of the chase in his personally published book, Manhunt in Burma and Assam, World War II in the China-Burma-India Theater. They like coon hunting. The Herman Perry story would later be republicized in 2008 as Now the Hell Will Start, One Soldier's Fight from the Greatest Manhunt of World War II by Brendan I. Corner. George Pelicanos, I guess his name, called it a fascinating untold story of the Second World War, an incendiary social document, and a thrilling campfire tale adventure. Other major news outlets would later pick up the story as a greater complex reflection of race relations between African Americans and commanding white officers in the military, especially during the Jim Crow era. That's a righteous ancestor. I don't care what y'all say. Y'all ashamed of Henry Perry. Henry Perry deserves medals. That guy was a G. If I told you this, if I was pitching this as a movie in Hollywood, they said nobody gonna believe this. I said it's based on a true story. It's based on a true story. Black history is better than science fiction. See, they'll have a white dude playing Henry Perry. They will make Henry Perry white 100 years from now. When they do the movie about this, he's gonna be a white man, but it's based on a true story. But he was a black man that did this. Man was just 22 years old. Emmett Till dead just 23. Why are they afraid of black men? And they're not even in their prime. Emmett Till mom used to babysit. Fred Hampton's senior mom used to babysit Emmett Till. The government started targeting Fred Smith at 14. White folks down south killed Emmett Till at 14. Fred Hampton was dead, was killed by the government at 21 while he was sleeping. Defense Captain Mark Clark killed at 22. They were sleeping. Why are they afraid to see black males mature into men? Think about Eddie Noel. We talk about Eddie Noel. Think about all this stuff I'm talking about. Henry Perry, I want to know if his relatives are still over in Burma. Like, what they say he got did they kill his son or his daughter? Oh, she 14. I said, damn. My uncle married his wife, my aunt Olivia. She was 14, he was 24. They was married for almost 70 years. 70 years before he died, July 31st of last year. A year ago this month. Why don't we know about him? You think they're going to teach about Henry Perry in critical race theory? Good luck. You think they're going to teach about Robert Charles and critical race theory? Why? That's why I said I'm not interested in critical race theory. They can't teach me now. Everything I learned about me came from me researching and listening and talking with elders, man. You don't learn about who you are at school. You probably learn that from the village. You got no village. But I'm saying Henry Perry is a righteous. And what they doing down in Monroe, North Carolina to produce these revolutionaries and troublemakers? So shout out to that ancestor. We're going to do some more. I might interview the author of that book about him. I can't believe they didn't make it to a movie yet. They're gonna have a white man playing him. You know, when they did that 9/11 movie, I don't know, there was Oliver Stone. It was a 9/11 hero in there, but they made him white. But in reality, he was a black man. They could have easily fact checked that. The Irishman. You know, Netflix spent $200 million on that Martin Scorsese movie. That's not even the best Martin Scorsese film. You got Robert De Niro and Al Pacino and Joe Pesci and Depends and stuff. Barely, you got all that CGI mess. You got a $200 million budget. That means y'all got the dates of the dudes when they got whacked wrong. Y'all get their dates wrong. Y'all already made a fiction about how Jimmy Hoffa actually died. Now you're getting the facts of when the guys got whacked wrong. Don't get the right hair color. Got one dude that was skinny, got him fat. You know, it's weird. I hate these movies. Like with the Emmett Till, Women of the Movement, I like it. But Gene Mobley was a dark-skinned brother. But they got a light-skinned brother playing Gene Mobley in the Emmett. I hate when they mess with the color. I hate when they do that. It's like, you look at Michael Mann's Ali. You want to make sure that Malcolm X's like hair color is the right hair color, but yet you got Minister Baines playing Elijah Muhammad. And I enjoyed the actor who played Elijah Muhammad in Minister Baines, but nobody did a better Elijah Muhammad than he passed along, the ancestor now. You know what I'm talking about? He played Malcolm X in Roots Next Generation. The brother who played Elijah Muhammad in Malcolm X Spike Lee movie was the best Elijah Muhammad. But yet Malcolm Mann go through all the trouble to make sure that they dyed Melvin Van Peebles or Mario Van Peebles' hair correct color for Malcolm X. Then you get the color wrong on Elijah Muhammad. But yeah, I mean, but overall, the Women of the Movement was a good limited series. I think it did a great job of introducing people to the story. Even I think they got an African dude played Medgar Evers. He did an all right job. I think the best Medgar Evers I've seen so far has been Howard Rollins, the guy who played in the Heat of the Night TV show, who played in the movie Ragtime and The Soldier Story. Howard Rollins was an amazing actor. Howard Rollins. He's from Baltimore. I think he died of AIDS complication, has an issue with drugs, I guess. But he did a pretty good, decent Medgar Evers. I wish they would get more of us to play us. I think the guy was an African guy. I look at his name, I look how he looked. And he did all right. But I mean, like, you know, the guy who I think would make a good Medgar Evers is the cat who Jonathan Majors, who played in Lovecraft Country. I think he would make a hell of a Medgar Evers. So when I was looking at Lovecraft Country, I said, this guy could play Medgar Evers. I think his name is Jonathan Majors. I don't know. You know, the guy that played the lead in Lovecraft Country. Lovecraft Country, yeah. But that's Henry Perry, all right. Let me put it one thing. I know I'm about to go into 2 hours and 30 minutes. I can't believe I've been on here this long. And now I'm gonna be out for a couple of days. This stuff is like it's like I'm working out when I do these shows. Like it's very intense, trying to find information. Very intense. Oh man. There's this thing called sapiosexuals, or you know, like I meet women that like they sapiosexuals. But the thing about it is like it's like they infatuated with your knowledge, with your mind. It turns them on. Like it could be man or women, but I like to deal with women. And I just can't, I can't spend no 3 hours on my phone no more like that. And it's hard, man. I'm actually trying to do stuff. I'm trying to do things that benefit everybody. I feel like I have no life. But anyway, I do have a life, but I don't have a life, that type of thing. But it's interesting for them, this sapiosexualism. Like they love to make love to my mind, play mind sex. But I need a woman to love a friend. I need somebody in the flesh too now. Like that song, Jackie Wilson, a woman, a lover, a friend. And I finally figured out my top 5 as far as greatest R&B male singers. This is my top 5. And not even in order, but it's an order if you think about it. Number 1, Marvin Gaye. Number 2, Sam Cooke. Number 3, R. Kelly. Number 4, Al Green. Number 5, Jackie Wilson. They go 5, 1, 1 to 5. Like I can make Jackie Wilson number 1, Al Green number 2, R. Kelly number 3, Sam Cooke number 4, Marvin Gaye number 5. It works for me. R. Kelly's number 3, regardless. He's in that 3rd slot. And y'all can say what y'all want to say. I don't have no issues listening to R. Kelly. Like white folks have no issues listening to Elvis Presley, or watching Woody Allen movies. I have no issue. I listen to my favorite Elvis song is Suspicious Minds. Who called him no trap? I love that song, Suspicious Minds. I like he did a couple of retakes on it. You know, I like all the versions. I like the studio versions of Suspicious Minds. And I'm definitely gonna check out that Elvis movie. I talked to some black folks in the know, like Carla Thomas. A lot of people they love that Elvis movie. People don't understand. I know what Chuck D said back in the day about Elvis and Fight the Power. Where I'm from, a lot of black folks love Elvis. We love Elvis down here. I know y'all, and Elvis ain't all white either. You can look at he kind of like Malongan or some, you know, he ain't all white. He had a twin. His twin passed away. So imagine having two Elvises or two whatever, Elvin and Elvis. I guess I don't know, but I know a black dude that I got respect for. He saw the movie 3 times. He said it's that good. I said, but he don't really look like Elvis to me. Nah, he look like, you know, you gotta see the movie. You know, he got Tom Hanks playing Colonel Parker. But let me get through this. But I'm just gonna check out the Elvis movie. I'll do a review. And the sister who played Big Mama Thornton in the movie, she passed away last week in Nashville. Shout outs and prayers to her family. Young sister, was just 44 years young. She had some kids. One of her children called 911 or went to a neighbor home to call 911. Dropped dead at 44. The biggest thing that happened to her in her life, and she can't even enjoy the fruits of her labor. So the woman who played Big Mama Thornton in the Elvis movie, she just passed away unexpectedly at 44 years young in Nashville. And the founder of the Black Hollywood Festival, she passed away. I don't know their name, but I'm just telling y'all about these people. And what's sad about her is like she ran the Black Hollywood Film Festival for years, and yet when she died, she couldn't even pay for a funeral because she had a pre-existing condition since she was like 12 years old. She had a heart condition since she was 12 years old. So they wouldn't let her buy no life insurance. So she died at 61. So her family was raising money for her funeral expenses, like trying to raise $15,000. And this is a woman that's been suffering all her life. And yet she still found a way to give back, not only to give back, but to give back to her people, to give back to people in her profession who might need a helping hand and the ability to connect with other people and different organizations to help get their film seen and created. So I don't know their names off the top of my head right now. I'm freestyling, but I just want to let y'all know y'all can look them up. And these are black women, talented, gifted, giving, loving people who just passed away all too young at the ages of 44 and 61. So there's a lot of people dying. Suspicious Minds. But I want to show y'all this, get y'all more motivated and find this history. Let me see. This is what I'm talking about. That's the court martial of the brothers who were involved in the Houston race war incident, massacre, whatever they want to call it. Houston race incident, I don't know. But these brothers, they're on the left, right? Let me see. Right here, this down in the gallery right there. These black men are on trial, being accused, being judged by all these white dudes, these white guys here. They did have a black lawyer represent some of the guys, but it's over. These black men, they got their legs crossed. Look, these are men. They stood up for themselves. They fought back. They took some with them, but yet, like what it says on here, it says the full caption for this item is as follows: largest murder trial in the history of the United States, seen during court martial. 64 members of the 24th Infantry, United States of America, on trial for mutiny and murder of 17 people at Houston, Texas, August 23rd, 1917, Black August. Trial held in Gift Chapel, Fort Sam, Houston. Trial started November 1st, 1917. Brigadier General George K. Hunter presiding. Colonel J.A. Hull, Judge Advocate, Counsel for the Defense. Major Harvey S. Greer, Major D.V. Supfin, Assistant Advocate, Prisoners Guarded by 19th Infantry Company C, Captain Carl J. Attler. So look at, just want to get that in y'all mind. I'm not my ancestors. Now, we don't want to be down, but sometimes you got to make them sacrifices, right? He called it Houston Rioters 1917. I call it the Race War 1917. Something to think about. We'll do a show about some of these things they don't talk about. But that does it for this edition. Y'all learn something new. I hope y'all learn something new every time I talk. I'm just not just talking. But thank y'all for the support. Thank y'all for all who have supported and will donate in the future, who have donated already. Donate. I have not been looking at the comment section. Like I said, if you like the words from Brother Hurd, please spread the word. Subscribe to We All Be TV on YouTube. You can support the movement. Knowledge is the currency of the universe, but I need money, pay these bills and all this other mess. You can cash out your support, $sign R2C2H2, Google Pay, PayPal, and Zelle your support. Email R2C2H2@gmail.com. Vibo your support at R2C2H2. Goodbye, Artivist Art to Wear. Like I said, this is my Emmett Till. We Struggle to Death shirt. Go below the video description box if you're on YouTube. Access that shelf. Lead you to our official website. We can buy t-shirts. And you also hang up Artivist Art, R2C2H2.com, that website. We got to update the website. Thank y'all for being patient. Let me read the disclaimer and we out of here. Thank y'all. I appreciate y'all more than y'all think. I wouldn't be on here if I didn't. It's been a weird time though. It's weird. But disclaimer: the views expressed by host and guests on the We All Be TV platform are not the official views, opinions, beliefs, or perspectives of We All Be News or the We All Be Group Incorporated. We All Be News is an organization that thoroughly believes in supplementing the information narrative that is usually supplied by the corporate news entities with those viewpoints and expressions which may be marginalized or ignored for a plethora of reasons. We are about informing the general public on alternative perspectives as it relates to news and information, and letting the general public be the ultimate judge in deciding on how to use said information. Informed citizens are responsible citizens. Thank you for your support. And thank y'all so much for tuning in to get in where you fit in. Because this has been Brother Ron. We all be in it to win it. Words of Duke Ellington, we love you madly. And from yours truly, keep on producing and pushing. We out of here. Peace. Enjoy yourself.